Conflict, it's a word that dominates our headlines, our relationships, and sometimes even our own minds. But why? What is it that fuels this constant state of opposition and division? Today we explore a profound truth, one that Eckhart Tolle so eloquently illuminates. The true basis for conflict lies within ourselves. At its core, conflict is born from the illusion of separation. The ego, the part of us that defines it by comparison, judgment, and fear, thrives on creating boundaries. It tells us I am me and you are you, I must protect myself, my beliefs, my identity. In this state, life becomes a battle, a relentless attempt to prove, defend, or attack. But what if this is just a mirage? What if the walls we build to separate ourselves from others are nothing more than shadows cast by our own unconsciousness? Here's the truth: conflict is not the problem. It is a symptom of living disconnected from the present moment, from our true nature. When we operate on autopilot, driven by unconscious patterns, we react rather than respond. We become prisoners of our fears and judgments, and in doing so, we forget our shared humanity. But there is a way out, a way beyond the endless cycle of resistance and retaliation. And it begins with awakening to presence, the power of now. In this space, the ego loses its grip. Suddenly there's no need to be right, no need to attack, and no need to defend. Instead, there is clarity, there is peace. And this awakening is not just personal, it's collective. When one person chooses presence, they create a ripple effect. Their peace becomes a light in the darkness of conflict, inviting others to step out of the shadow of fear and into the light of understanding. So I ask you, where in your life are you clinging to separation? Where are you reacting out of fear rather than responding with awareness? The moment you bring these patterns into the light of your consciousness, you take the first step toward dissolving conflict, not just within yourself, but in the world around you. Because true peace isn't found in winning an argument or defeating an opponent. True peace is found in the realization that there is no opponent. There is only oneness, only connection, only now. Let us choose presence, let us choose awareness, and let us choose a life where the basis for conflict is no longer fear, but understanding. The world will mirror the peace we cultivate within. It starts with you, it starts with us. The illusion of separation is perhaps one of the most pervasive and deeply ingrained misconceptions in human consciousness. It whispers to us that we are isolated, autonomous beings existing independently from the world and those around us. This belief isn't just a harmless perspective, it's the root cause of much of the conflict, division, and suffering we experience, both personally and collectively. From the moment we begin to form an identity, the ego steps in, shaping how we perceive ourselves and the world. The ego thrives on defining boundaries. It says, this is who I am, and that is who you are. This is mine, and that is yours. It measures, compares, judges, and categorizes, creating an internal narrative that reinforces the idea of me versus you, us versus them. These distinctions may seem real, but they are merely constructs, stories the mind tells to make sense of a world it struggles to fully understand. When we buy into this illusion, we see others not as reflections of ourselves, but as threats, competitors, or strangers. We focus on what divides us, differences in opinions, backgrounds, beliefs, and identities, and forget the shared essence that unites us all. This disconnection fuels misunderstandings, prejudices, and conflicts on every level, from personal relationships to global interactions. Wars, discrimination, environmental destruction, they all stem from the same root, the mistaken belief that we are separate. But here's the deeper truth: separation is a mirage. Science and spirituality alike reveal that everything in existence is interconnected. The air you breathe was once exhaled by someone else. The sunlight nourishing the trees also warms your skin. At a quantum level, the boundaries we perceive between objects blur into a vast, unified field of energy. And yet we struggle to integrate this understanding into our daily lives because the ego's voice is loud, convincing us of its narrative. Living under the illusion of separation traps us in a state of fear and defensiveness. We become reactive, guarding our beliefs, possessions, and identities as though they are under constant threat. We seek validation from others, yet fear vulnerability, further entrenching the divide. This cycle of separation reinforces itself, leaving little room for empathy, connection, or peace. Breaking free from this illusion requires awakening to a deeper awareness. When we quiet our mind and step into the present moment, we begin to see through the ego's stories. In the stillness, we recognize that we are not isolated fragments but integral parts of a greater whole. The boundaries dissolve, and with them the fear and hostility that fuel conflict. This shift isn't just an intellectual understanding, it's an embodied realization. It transforms how we relate to ourselves and others. Suddenly, the person we once saw as an adversary becomes a mirror, reflecting our own humanity. The divisions that seemed so insurmountable reveal themselves as bridges waiting to be crossed. The illusion of separation loses its power when we choose presence, compassion, and understanding over judgment and fear. As we embrace our interconnectedness, conflict gives way to cooperation, and isolation transforms into unity. In this awakening, we don't just heal ourselves, we begin to heal the world. The role of unconsciousness in conflict is both profound and pervasive, often operating beneath the surface of our awareness. At its core, unconsciousness refers to a state in which we are disconnected from the present moment and unaware of the thoughts, emotions, and patterns driving our behavior. When we act unconsciously, we are not fully present. Instead, we are ruled by habitual reactions, fears, and judgments. This state of disconnection is fertile ground for the seeds of conflict to grow. Unconsciousness manifests in many ways, but one of its most significant effects is the tendency to operate on autopilot. In this mode, we replay conditioned responses from our past, often without realizing it. A comment from someone might trigger an old wound, and before we know it, we're reacting defensively or lashing out, not to the present moment, but to unresolved pain from years ago. These reactive behaviors perpetuate cycles of misunderstanding and conflict, as each interaction is colored by a fog of unconscious emotion and thought. Fear is another primary driver of unconsciousness. When we are unaware, fear shapes our perceptions and actions. We become suspicious, assuming the worst in others. We see threats where there are none, and we act defensively, even aggressively, to protect ourselves. Fear blinds us to the humanity of others, reducing them to labels or stereotypes. It convinces us that we must fight to preserve our sense of self even when no real danger exists. This fear-based reactivity creates an endless loop of conflict as fear begets fear, escalating tensions rather than resolving them. Judgment is closely tied to unconsciousness as it arises from the ego's need to categorize and compare. When we judge others, we separate ourselves from them, creating a sense of superiority or inferiority. These judgments fuel resentment, envy, and hostility. They prevent us from seeing the full complexity of others' experiences, locking us into a limited perspective. Unconscious judgment leaves no room for empathy or understanding, turning potential connections into points of contention. The most insidious aspect of unconsciousness is its self-reinforcing nature. When we are unaware, we lack the ability to step back and examine our thoughts or actions critically. Instead, we justify our behaviors, blame others, and perpetuate the cycle of reactivity. We may not even realize the harm we are causing, convinced that we are simply responding to external circumstances rather than internal triggers. In this way, unconsciousness sustains itself, keeping us trapped in patterns of conflict. Awakening from unconsciousness is the key to breaking free from this cycle. The first step is awareness, becoming present and observing our thoughts, emotions, and reactions without judgment. This awareness allows us to recognize when we are being driven by fear, judgment, or past conditioning. It creates a space between stimulus and response, giving us the power to choose a different path. As we cultivate awareness, we begin to see the world more clearly. Fear dissolves in the light of understanding. Judgments soften as we realize that everyone is carrying their own burdens, shaped by their unique experiences. Empathy replaces reactivity, allowing us to connect with others on a deeper level. This shift from unconsciousness to awareness transforms our relationships and interactions, replacing conflict with compassion and understanding. Unconsciousness may play a significant role in conflict, but it is not an unchangeable force. By choosing to wake up, to become present and aware, we reclaim the ability to navigate our lives with intention and clarity. In doing so, we not only free ourselves from the grip of unconsciousness, but also contribute to a world where peace and harmony can thrive. Awakening to presence is the transformative key to transcending conflict and unlocking a deeper experience of life. It is the process of shifting from a state of mind dominated by past conditioning and future anxieties to one grounded in the here and now. In presence, we access a profound stillness and clarity that allows us to move beyond the reactive patterns of the ego, opening the door to peace, understanding, and true connection. Presence is not something foreign to us. It is our natural state. However, in the hustle and complexity of modern life, we become entangled in the noise of our thoughts, constantly replaying past events or worrying about what's to come. This mental chatter distracts us from the reality unfolding in the moment, causing us to live in a state of disconnection. When we are lost in this mental fog, we are more likely to misunderstand others, act impulsively, and perpetuate cycles of conflict. Awakening to presence begins with awareness, the simple yet profound realization that we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness behind them. When we detach from the incessant stream of mental activity and observe it without judgment, we create a space where conscious choice becomes possible. In this space, we are no longer ruled by the fears, judgments, and emotional reactions that typically drive conflict. Instead, we can respond to life with clarity and wisdom. Presence also dissolves the boundaries that the ego constructs. In the present moment, there is no need to defend an identity or prove oneself right. The stories we tell about who we are or who others should be lose their grip, revealing a deeper sense of unity and connection. This recognition of our shared humanity fosters compassion and empathy, even in the face of disagreement. It becomes clear that beneath the surface differences, we are all part of the same unfolding existence. Practicing presence transforms how we experience conflict. Instead of seeing it as a battle to be won, we begin to view it as an opportunity for growth and understanding. Presence allows us to listen deeply, not just to the words others speak, but to the emotions and intentions behind them. This kind of listening creates a safe space for resolution, where both sides feel heard and valued. When we approach conflict from a place of presence, we prioritize connection over division, solutions over blame. Awakening to presence also reveals the power of stillness. In the stillness of the present moment, we access a reservoir of inner peace that is untouched by external circumstances. This peace becomes a source of strength, allowing us to navigate challenges without being overwhelmed or reactive. It is not passive or indifferent, it is a dynamic state of awareness that empowers us to act with purpose and integrity. The journey to presence is not always easy. The ego resists letting go of its control, and the pull of past and future can feel relentless. But with practice through mindfulness, meditation, or simply pausing to breathe and observe the moment, we can cultivate presence as a way of being. Over time, it becomes a natural part of who we are, guiding our thoughts, words, and actions with grace. Awakening to presence is not just a personal transformation, it is a collective one. As more individuals embrace the power of now, the ripple effects extend outward, creating a culture of awareness and compassion. In this space, the causes of conflict, fear, judgment, and separation lose their hold, replaced by understanding, unity, and peace. Presence is not a destination, it is the foundation of a life lived with purpose, harmony, and authenticity. It is the path to a world where conflict no longer dominates and connection reigns supreme. In the end, the journey to resolve conflict begins not with changing others but with transforming ourselves. The illusion of separation, the unconscious patterns that fuel our reactions, and the absence of presence are the roots of the discord we experience in our relationships and in the world. But within each of us lies the power to transcend these barriers. By recognizing the interconnectedness of all life, we dissolve the illusion of separation. By becoming aware of our unconscious tendencies, we free ourselves from the grip of fear and judgment. And by awakening to presence, we tap into a profound stillness that allows us to respond to life with clarity, compassion, and purpose. Conflict is not inevitable, it is a symptom of unawareness. As we choose awareness, we create a ripple effect that transforms not only our own lives, but also the lives of those around us. When we act from a place of presence, we foster understanding, connection, and unity. This is the path to peace, not just within ourselves, but in the world we share. The power to end conflict lies within you. By awakening to your true nature, embracing awareness and living fully in the present, you become a beacon of change. Together we can transcend the forces that divide us and step into a new reality where connection and harmony prevail. Let us begin that journey now. The world is waiting.